Thank you. I hope you won't do that when I get through. Listen, I'm so proud to be here. It is just fun to be out west, and most of y'all know, since I've started traveling this country and I came out west, I just kind of fell in love with the West and grasped the issues that you were facing out here and thought, well, you know, I've been on the board for 9 years. I hadn't heard enough about these issues, so I've tried to use a megaphone to talk about y'all's issues. And I hope y'all have seen that and heard it, because I really have taken your issues to heart. All Farm Bureau represents the best of America, but the West just has some kind of special touch to it. So I congratulate you on having that special touch. Speaking of a special touch, none of this lady's going to try to video me, so I probably need to stand still. I love the children here. That is so awesome. It reminds me of going to my Georgia Farm Bureau convention. We always had children. Bonnie and I always took our children with us. And if your child gets noisy, don't bother. It doesn't bother me. It sounds like life, and life is wonderful. So Wyoming Farm Bureau, 100 years old. Congratulations. Wow. What an accomplishment. That is an awesome accomplishment. Your theme is honoring the past and growing the future. And boy, that's what we do. Because we're so proud of our past. And I know that this organization is set up for the future to not just serve another 100 years, but hundreds of years. And I'll talk to you a little bit about where that is. I know a lot of you have followed Bonnie and I over the last 4 years, and you know that Bonnie has been going through cancer. Bonnie would be here tonight, because she loves to come out west too. She would be here tonight if she was able to do that. Bonnie's not able to travel with me right now. Made our life very challenging. But she's in a good place. She's a fighter. She's unbelievable. She's my hero. But she's fought a really hard fight this year. But I'm convinced that she's still with us today because of the strong prayers that's come from the Farm Bureau family all across America. So if you're one of those that's prayed for my wife, thank you so much. I appreciate that. The travel that the journey she's on is really taking us to places. You know, I'm one of those old farmers, and you know, something tears up, I take my hands and a piece of wire, baling wire or string, and I fix it, and I make it work. So this is one of those things I hadn't been able to fix. And I struggled with it for several months after she got so sick in February. I finally just got where I couldn't hardly deal with it, and then I turned it over where I should have done it earlier. Why do we humans try to hold on to things so long? Found my peace in Philippians 4:7. It says, "And the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Jesus Christ." Praise the Lord. Now, some of y'all don't really know about Georgia and where I come from. Bonnie and I live in Greensboro, Georgia. That's halfway between Atlanta and Augusta. And really, Greensboro is a county seat, but I really live 8 miles out of town, halfway between Greensboro and Madison. Well, Madison is famous. And it's famous because of what happened during the Civil War. See, we live right in the middle of where Dixie was. Actually, the vice president of the Confederacy was born and raised about 15 miles down the road from me. And during the war, when Sherman made his march to the sea, he burned everything on his trail to the sea. Everything. Well, Bonnie had 3 cousins. And one of them was a merchant, one was a lawyer, and one was a farmer, and he farmed in my community right there, and he's buried about a mile away the crow flies. Well, when Sherman got to Madison, Bonnie's cousin went to town to meet with him, because he was an old farmer now. He's seen this disaster coming, and he was trying to figure out how they were going to get through it. So he goes to town and talks to Sherman and says, "If you don't burn our crops, we'll feed your army." Now you might say, "You're going to feed your enemy?" He was a farmer first. He was trying to figure out how they were going to get to the next crop. Sherman took him up on his deal. They went back home, cooked 12 hogs, fed Sherman's army, and Sherman held up his end of the deal. He didn't burn Madison, or he didn't burn the crops. Now, there's a little debate going on whether Bonnie's cousins kept him from burning Madison, because the farmers outside the Farm Bureau meeting at tailgate thinks he had a girlfriend there. And the Chamber of Commerce said it was too beautiful to burn. But Bonnie says it was her cousins that did that. But the theme of her story is, she tells me regularly, if it hadn't been for her family, mine would have starved to death a long time ago. Because they took those crops and divided it among the families in the community and got them through the winter to be able to plant another crop. That's what farmers do each and every day, and it's way back in the history of our families. You know, Wyoming is not the only state celebrating 100 years. There's a lot of our states celebrating 100 years. But last Tuesday, on November the 12th, last Tuesday, was the 100th birthday of American Farm Bureau. And just to think about the men and women that had the foresight to think that, you know, they started county farm bureaus about 1911, and they were trying to affect policies in their local area. And then they said, well, we can do this on a county level. Why can't we do it on a state level? And then we started, and I think it was 1916, Missouri was the first state organization that was started. And they were so successful there, other states started popping up. And then in 19, they said, well, let's do it in Congress. Because during that time, all these, during the Industrial Revolution, all these big companies had all the power in Washington. And they said, we need one united voice. And that's when all the state farm bureaus and county farm bureaus came together and created American Farm Bureau. You know, I always tell everybody, we're not American Farm Bureau, we're not Wyoming Farm Bureau, we are Farm Bureau 1. And we are like three-legged milk stool. One leg of us in the county, and that's the most important, powerful leg under that stool. You're the most important people in our organization. And then we got the state organization, which is another leg, and the national organization, which is the other leg. And if one of those legs come out from under it, you know what happens. We tumble over and we're not effective anymore. So we will be in Austin, Texas in January, celebrating the end of our centennial year, and I think there will be 2020 vision. So we hope that some of you, or all of you, are welcome to come and spend that time of celebration with us. And who knows, the president may be back. Who knows what might happen at that. You know, my dad, a long time ago when I was a young farmer, I remember being at the breakfast table. And I remember complaining at my mama's breakfast table, and I remember complaining about milk prices and regulation and all the stuff that we were facing back then. And I remember my dad just very calmly saying, well, if you want to complain about that, you won't do anything about those problems, you're going to have to get outside your fence row. And he said, you need to be out there giving back to your community anyway. Well, that started my journey that night to this position right here. Through the Young Farmer Program, through the Georgia Farm Bureau and American Farm Bureau, and it led me to here. And if you send some of your young people to your Farm Bureau office, I'll show them the plaques and pictures of the pathway to the presidency. Because I want every young person to know that if they dream it, and they want to work hard enough at it, and they want to stay focused, they can accomplish anything that they dream. And I want them to know that, because this old country boy never dreamed he'd get the chance to do what he's doing. So I get asked a lot, so what's your vision for American Farm Bureau in the second 100 years? And you know, when I came to Washington, you know, I had so many things I wanted to do at American Farm Bureau, but as I traveled the country, and I made this commitment to go all to every 50 states and Puerto Rico in the first 2 years, and by the way, I did that. And it was an awesome trail across this country. We have a beautiful, beautiful country. It's made up of farmers and ranchers that are salt of the earth of this country. And we taught in the South, Southern hospitality, but I tell the people in the South when I go back home, we taught something that really lives in every farmer's heart. It's called just farmer hospitality. It's not, we don't hold it true in the South, because I've never seen such hospitality all across this country. But as I traveled, I wanted to learn and listen. And I listened to what you had to say, because I want to build the next century American Farm Bureau to what you want it to be, not what I want it to be. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about what I heard, and we kind of narrowed it down into some goals that we wanted to accomplish, and they're not really anything big and special. It's really just to refine a great organization, because our forefathers did an excellent job creating it. So I'll start out by talking about the first one, is unity. Unity, you know, that's not something you just create an organization, say we're going to be one, and it just happens. It's something, it's like a marriage. You got to work at it every day, because we're going to have things that's going to get in between us. And we've got to work on staying together. In unity, as I travel the country, so many people say, well, you know, we just can't agree with the South, or the South would say, well, we just can't agree with the Midwest or the West. And, you know, and they said, well, maybe these regions that we have, maybe that divides us and tears us apart. See, I disagree. I disagree. I think it's how you manage the organization and the structure that our forefathers built is how you erase those lines and make one voice. Perfect example of that is how Andrew Wansley and the staff at our American Farm Bureau handled the Farm Bill. Because I told Andrew, I said, I want a Farm Bill team to be able to study this Farm Bill so that we could get input all over America. Normally we make a Farm Bill team within the staff of American Farm Bureau. And I said, we'll put that together, but we're going to add all the national affairs directors across the country. We had weekly calls. We had Chairman Conaway on the House side. On those calls, we had Chairman Roberts' staff on the calls. Every week we'd have a guest to bring all of America up on where the Farm Bill was. And I heard so much discussion between different states saying, well, I didn't know the South got affected that way in this part of the Farm Bill. And then you hear somebody, well, I didn't know how they treated California this way, or the western states. What it did, it gave us the opportunity to erase those lines, and it gave us the opportunity to have a discussion and understand each other. That's what I mean by managing our organization. And we learned, that was a great experiment, and we learned that on big issues, that's how we ought to handle all of them. And that's what we're going to continue to do, and it brings unity to our organization. It also brought the second thing that I thought was important, transparency. Because when I went to American Farm Bureau, we did a study to farmers and non-farmers of what they knew about American Farm Bureau. We want to know what you thought about it. And the further away we got away from Washington, the less people knew about us, the less the people respected us. We are very respected in Washington, D.C. If somebody has an agricultural question on the Hill or in administration, they call us. They call us because they want to know what your policy is. So it's important for us to be transparent so everybody can see. So we work hard. We're working hard now to make sure that you know what we're doing at the American Farm Bureau level. Because if you know what we're doing, that makes you feel the value you have in that leg of our organization. So transparency is important. Engagement. Most important thing that we can have. If we can be united and keep you engaged, see, Paul sitting back there that runs our policy division. Paul, raise your hand so they can see you. All the experts that we have that works under Paul that specialize in particular areas, they're laying the groundwork with your policy book each and every day, whether it be at Capitol Hill, USDA, or administration, or in a coalition with other friends of ours. They're laying that groundwork every day. But when you take time to send an email, or when you take time to make a phone call, or when you take time to leave your business or your farm and come to Washington, D.C., and you go in there and say the same things we've been saying by laying the groundwork, it paves that road right to success. That's why I say you're the most important piece, and we have to keep you engaged. Now, you're busy. I know. When I go back to my farm, I'm busy. I don't need this thing in my hand. I am busy. But we need to make it very easy for you to respond and be engaged in this organization, because when you speak, that's when things happen, and we really appreciate y'all helping us do that. As far as engagement, I want to just give you some indication of how your state is engaged at the national level with providing leadership at the national level. We have issue advisory committees. So we'll take an issue and then we'll put farmers from all over the country on a committee to talk about that issue. And in this state, Cole Coxville, he serves on the Environmental Regulation Committee. Cole, I know you're in here somewhere. There he is, raise your hand back here. We appreciate Cole, and we did a fantastic job chairing our Young Farmer and Rancher Committee maybe a couple years ago. All right?
First year you were on there too.
That's right, that's right. So we appreciate him. Keith Hamilton, Federal Lands Committee. Is Keith in here? Maybe, maybe not. Yep, there he is. Thank you, Keith, for your service and your leadership at the national level. And then, of course, your president, Todd. I can't tell you how much I appreciate him. He hasn't been on the board long, but he's on our American Farm Bureau board. Where's he at? I keep bragging on somebody I can't see. I tell you what, he's made such an impression on me in his short time on our board. I've asked him to serve on our Finance Committee. And that hardly ever happens, that you serve 2 years and get put on one of the major committees of the American Farm Bureau. I want you to give your state president a big round of applause. He's done a great job. Doing a great job. Got a wonderful family, and he comes with the right attitude to ask good questions, and that's what it's all about. The fourth goal that I wanted to bring to it is relationships. Now, our staff at American Farm Bureau has, for a long time, had great relationships in town. But the presidency, I wanted to bring an extra layer of relationship building. And one of those talents that God gave me, and I don't really know why He gave it to me, but I have the ability to make friends and really engage with them. And my dad taught me a long time ago that, you know, everything in your life that's a success was done on a relationship. Whether it was with your wife, your family, your brother, your sister, in church with God. It takes a relationship. In business, it takes a relationship to be successful. And He branded that in my brain, so I've spent my life trying to build those bridges and relationships. So when this president got elected, before he got elected, you elected me as president. It was about a year while he was a candidate for president. I was riding home from my grandson's birthday party one day, and my son and my wife was in there. It was a Saturday afternoon. My phone rings, and there was an unknown number, and I pick it up, and it says, this man says, "Is this Zippy Duvall?" And I said, "It is." And he says, "Would you have time to talk to Mr. Donald Trump?" And I thought to myself, nobody in the world's going to believe this. So I pushed the button and put it on speaker so I'd have some witnesses, and my son and my wife sitting in the car. And he said, "Zippy Duvall?" And I said, "Yes, sir, that's my name." And he said, "I like that name." He's always liked it. Anyway, he said, "I like that name." And he said, "I just wanted to call and congratulate you on being elected president of American Farm Bureau." He said, "We recognize y'all as a great organization that gives the farmers one voice, and we appreciate what they do, and we look forward to working with you." And he and I spent about 10 minutes on the phone. We talked about labor, we talked about regulatory reform, we talked about WOTUS, we talked about several things on that phone call. And from that day on, blossomed a relationship that has paid huge dividends to American agriculture in the last 3 years. It makes big chills go down my back. Because every time, every time this White House does something around agriculture, they promise us a seat, and they've allowed us to fill that seat every time. So we look forward to continue to work with him on those issues. So those relationships are important, and they don't stop there. We've built great relationships with USDA. Secretary Perdue's a dear friend of mine. He's got great undersecretaries that came from agriculture. I'll give you this statistic. Secretary Perdue's only the 4th secretary out of 31 that actually farmed as an adult. Can you believe that? Only 4th secretary that's farmed as an adult. And he brings his heart and love for agriculture to that position, and I know y'all probably experienced that and seen it. But every one of his undersecretaries came from either agriculture or worked in a business that was connected to agriculture. I don't know that we've ever had such an ag-related leadership team at USDA. We call it our dream team. So we've enjoyed working with him. we've enjoyed working with Interior, and we've got some tremendous things accomplished in Interior, so we really appreciate Secretary Bernhardt in his work too. So those relationships are important. So we're taking those 4 points and we're pushing forward. We're pushing forward to the second 100 years, and we're going to keep making this organization stronger, because we're not going to change it. We're one voice, we're one with one mission, and we're going to continue to provide that for agriculture. So what's this yield us when we do these things, and we've been working at them for so long? We've accomplished a lot as an organization over the years. So you can't come to a Farm Bureau meeting without talking about policy a little bit, or issues. So I'll real quickly go through some issues, because I know a lot of you, if you had one-on-one time with me, you'd probably ask me. But the tax reform, great accomplishment. Pat Wolf leads our challenge there. If somebody has an agricultural tax question, they call Pat Wolf. She works for you every day there. I mean, tremendous job that she does there. Farm Bill, I just told you about Andrew Wansley, does a great job with that in biotechnology. Regulatory reform, Don Parrish works for you every day. Don has been fighting alongside of you to get rid of the waters of the U.S. rule. And except, yes, we accomplished that. In September, I went and watched the Administrator Wheeler sign off on totally getting away with withdrawing the 2015 Waters of the U.S. rule. And we did it together with a Ditch the Rule campaign that was so strong that our previous administration started their own campaign called Ditch the Myth. They were trying to battle our campaign. But we won that battle, and with Don's leadership and works for you every day at American Farm Bureau, we were successful in doing that. But your involvement was critical. It was the largest federal land grab in the history of our country. It took our private property rights away, and we beat it back. And now we have a seat at the table with this EPA to try to write the new waters of the U.S. It's going to have clear rules so that we can provide them clean water, and we'll look forward to doing that. So I think you need to give yourselves another round of applause. So I know one of the issues that everybody's talking about is trade. Everyone's talking about China. I won't start talking about China until I say this president renegotiated Korea. Didn't hurt the agricultural piece in it. He renegotiated NAFTA with USMCA. Did not hurt agriculture, actually helped it. We think it'll be a $2.2 billion more trade in that. That trade deal over 23 years went from $8 billion to almost $40 billion and was climbing. So it is in our ballpark now. We need to keep hammering toward the Congress to make sure that they bring that to the floor and get a vote on it. You can make that happen. I'll tell everybody, be like your child that's sitting in the back seat saying, are we there yet? Just call them and say, is it going to the floor yet? Just wear them out with it. Don't let them have a break. Hammer them until they bring it to the vote. The votes are there to pass it. And they're just trying to make sure that they build up the Democratic side of the votes. But truly though, we need a big bipartisan vote. It shows the world this president can negotiate a deal. He can take it to Congress, and Democrats and Republicans will vote for it. It will speak volumes to the world if we can make that happen. And USMCA would be great for agriculture. The last issue I'll talk a little bit into is farm labor. It's the biggest limiting issue American agriculture has. Farmers say, I got the land, I got the water, my children are educated at the university, they're ready to come back and farm with me. But to increase our production, we've got to have more labor, and we can't find labor. It limits us from being truly what American agriculture could be. And we want to make sure that we have a program that's affordable, that fills our year-round needs. It provides some adjustment of status for the people that's been here for 15 to 20 years as part of our communities and our families that are embedded in our communities. And we want to make sure that we provide those in that next move, and that's what we're fighting hard to do right now. With last month, we've been in intense debate on the House side trying to bring a bill that's coming to the floor closer to your policy. And then, of course, there's other issues that are very important to you. Endangered species, Ryan Yates does a great job for you each and every day. He knows Western issues inside and out. And yes, I know about your grizzly bear problem. And we support you in being able to bring that management, to delist it and bring the management back home where y'all can help make a decision how to handle that, and with the wolf. So we're fighting that battle for you too. I had someone say to me earlier tonight, you know, public perception of us and what they think of us, how can we fix that? Well, just to give you a little insight, what's going on in the American Farm Bureau, Sarah Dirks works on our external relations. And Sarah works for you each and every day. And we're building partnerships with food industry, with chemical industries that we deal with each and every day. But we're also, we might slip out and buy enough stock in a company to get in the boardroom. So that when somebody's trying to feed that board misinformation about agriculture, we can sit there and give them your voice. And it's been a tremendous corporate advocacy movement that we have been able to get boards to call us the next day and say, we want to hear a little bit more about what the farmers say about that. Because see, they really trust you. They just don't know how to find out. And we just got to make sure that your voice is present. So American Farm Bureau is doing so many things, and I hope after you've heard me talk tonight that you go home feeling the value that you should be having in this great third leg of this great organization. So my dad might have taught me to get outside my fence rows, but I want to take a minute just to look inside our fence rows. Look at American agriculture. Listen, no one knows any better than I do. It's very difficult times. You know, everybody wants to talk about climate change. I said, you know, I know we got to talk about it, but our farmers are just trying to figure out how to survive right now. They don't really want to talk about climate change. If we get them back on, get them sustainable, get them making them a little money again, then they'll be willing to have that conversation. Well, we're going to try to have that conversation for you while we're fighting the battles to help you. But things are bad. Things are bad. And I think about, you know, what do you do when those challenges come before you? And, you know, I think about the challenges of what the men and women all across history has done to make sure that we can keep our freedoms. And I know we just passed on Monday, we recognized Veterans Day. So I want to take just one moment and ask the people in the room, if you served our country, would you please stand and let us show our respect and our thanks to you? Do we have veterans in the room? Let's give these men and women. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you. And I'm fixing to tell you a story, and it's a relationship that I have with my son. But when I tell it, I don't want you to think about my son. I want you to think about the men and women that just stood up. Because this is about how you survive difficult times. These people didn't make the sacrifice and leave their homes and families just because they wanted to. They did it because they wanted to help our country. And I'm sure they had some very challenging times while they were away. See, my oldest son, Vince, is a Black Hawk pilot. He went off to college, graduated from a 4-year military school, went on and became a Black Hawk pilot. Now this is the little boy, you know, before buddy seats, I'd tied a car seat in a tractor with me. And, you know, he'd ride, he went everywhere I went, and I taught him, and a lot of these children remind me of him. Taught him days of the week, all those special moments that I spent with him and I wouldn't take nothing for. But you know, this is the young man that one day he was getting ready to go to war, and his mother and his grandmother and his siblings and I had to drive him to the airport in Atlanta. And the whole way up there, no one said a word. It was just silent in the car. And all I could think about was all those old war movies I watched as a kid. An old farmer took his son to the train station, all dressed up in his nice army uniform, and he shakes his son's hand, and his son hugs his mom, and they put him on the train, not knowing whether they'd ever see him again. See, we lived there. We lived that moment. It's a very difficult moment. And you know, my son never called home. He never called home, and I asked him after it was all over. I said, why didn't you ever call home? He said, Daddy, well, it's just easier not to call. Because I get up, go to work, clean up, eat, go to bed, get up, go to work. And he says, as long as I didn't call you, I didn't think about you, it didn't hurt so bad. And that makes sense. That makes sense. But during about 8 or 10 months into his tour, and he stayed there 18 months, flew 119 combat missions in his Black Hawk. He called home one night. And I remember when he called and his mama said, Vince wants to talk to you. I knew something was going on with him. Well, I got on the phone with my son on the other side of the world, and he began to tell me his day, the best he could. He said, Daddy, we were going on a mission. There were 8 helicopters going that day. I was lined up to be the first one out. Something happened and he couldn't be the first one out. He ended up being the last one out. Well, the first one out didn't come back. And that night he was in the guy's room, cleaning his room out, packing his stuff up, getting ready to send it home to his wife and children. My son was in the lowest place of his life. He was experiencing something that his dad didn't even have a clue of what he was going through. And I was sitting on the other end of the phone saying, what in the world am I going to say to my son? And I said, God, just give me something to help to bring some relief to him. So God put these words in my mouth, and I said, son, I tell you what you do. We were in the dairy business, and he was raised there on the dairy. And I said, if you finish your time up, be real careful, come on home. I said, Daddy, I'll buy you 200 Holstein cows, I'll put you in the dairy business. You won't never have to think about that sandbox over again. The phone went silent. It just went silent. And I said, son, you still there? He said, yeah, Daddy. He said, about them 200 cows? It's bad over here, but it ain't that bad. And in a moment of unbelievable pressure on both ends of the phone, of me trying to figure out what I was going to say, God gave me something to bring light to what was happening. And he and I chuckled and laughed and talked about old times in the dairy, and it kind of took his mind away from it. And then it becomes sobering again, and I thought, oh my goodness, my son's got several more months, maybe another year over there. And I'm going to have to live through knowing what just happened. And I said, son, I'm so worried about you. And my son said on the phone, he said, Daddy, when you're worried about me, he said, I want you to think of the words of Amazing Grace. He said, the 3rd verse. And then he began to tell me, he said, through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. 'Tis grace that brought me safe thus far. And it's his grace that bring me home. I tell you this story because my son came home safe. That young man that left in his place that morning didn't. And he feels that every day, and I do too. Because I know there's a parent somewhere, a set of parents somewhere that didn't get their son back. But I tell you that we got brothers and sisters in agriculture that are on the edge. They're facing something just as disastrous as my son was that day. We got to watch out for them. We got to try to recognize the stress and strains they're going through and try to help them where we can. I know that agriculture is going to be all right. I know that American agriculture will come through this difficult time, and I know that we will have a strong American Farm Bureau family across this country for many, many years. And this is why I think that will happen. See, as I travel the country, I recognize 3 unbelievable characteristics in the farmers and ranchers of this country. One of them is the stamina, the diligence they show. No matter what they experience this year, they're still there to put that crop in next year. The second one is dedication. No one's more dedicated to their job than we do. We are. You know, when you stay up late at night because that cow's sick or having a kid, or you're out there all night trying to bale the hay because that's when you got to do it, it's the only time you got to do it, or the conditions are right. Nobody's more dedicated than we are. And there's nobody in no business of people that work harder than we do. We don't work 8-hour days. We don't work 5-day weeks. We work until it gets done, or until we can get to a spot where we feel good enough that we can go home. See, I live that work. I know what that is, but I see it in American farmers each and every day when I'm traveling around. In Proverbs 12:24 it says, "The hand of the diligent will rule." See, we're going to rule. And the reason we're going to rule is that everybody in this country and this world is dependent on us. What we do touches every living human being in this world. They can't do it without us. Agriculture is going to be fine. And they're going to be fine because we're diligent, we're hardworking, and we're dedicated. And we're going to do it with the power and strength in our county farm bureaus and this great farm bureau family that we have. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the opportunity to serve you. Bonnie and I love the Farm Bureau family, and we love serving people like you. And I get up every morning and pray that me and the staff at the American Farm Bureau can just do something that day that could affect your life in a positive way, or your rural community in a positive way. That's what Farm Bureau is all about. So thank you for this privilege. I hope you have a great 100-year celebration. And thank you, and God bless you, and God bless the American Farm